Okay,
Okay, what?
it's on live.
All right, hello and welcome to today's live democast. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chris Shields. I head up product marketing here at Gurucul, and I will be moderating today's session. I'm joined by Randeep Gill, one of our senior solution architects with over 20 years of experience in cybersecurity, from working in a SOC for a global service provider to key positions at leading cybersecurity vendors. Before we jump in, a few housekeeping notes. First, I implore you, please ask questions. You can type them in the box labeled questions just under the webinar window. You can submit a question anytime, and we will try to get to all of them live at the end of the session. Two, usually within 48 hours of this live session, you'll get a thank you email with a link to the recording for future viewing and reference. And then lastly, sometimes BrightTalk defaults to 480p. Don't ask me why, but you can change the resolution at the bottom. I think there's a little gear icon, so you can adjust your resolution if needed. And so with that, SIMs have gotten a bad rap with declining detection, skyrocketing costs, and of course, the difficulty in getting data into the SIM for analytics. It is certainly understandable. In this foundational democast, we'll cover how the Gurucul Reveal security analytics platform reduces alert fatigue and accelerates triage so that analysts can spend more time eradicating threats. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rand, who's going to walk you through how we do that.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm just going to flip the screen and start with the dashboard. Thank you very much for that introduction, Chris. It certainly resonates with my days in the SOC. And the first and foremost is as a security analyst, what are we trying to achieve? Really, me and my team wants a consistent methodology to not only investigate in a consistent way, but also be able to detect in a consistent and trustworthy way. Henceforth, the Gurucul Reveal platform was actually designed to be easy and intuitive to use. As you can see, the platform provides a consolidated dashboard that is part of our large library of actually out-of-the-box content. As you can see, these particular widgets, they're automatically populated and updated and refreshed in real time, giving you real visibility into risks associated with an organization environment. Now, by the way, this is totally customizable. I can implement role-based access control to focus on the dashboards that are important to me. Perhaps I'm working towards a regulatory compliance. Perhaps I'm focused on assets like IoT devices. Perhaps I'm a security operations manager or even a CISO. We need to see operational efficiency over time in my SOC. However, let's go through some of these widgets. By the way, these widgets are not static. They're totally clickable. We have total number of alerts here, which, as we know, a lot of SOCs can be overwhelmed with. We're all burdened by the effect of alert fatigue. And we also have the incidents by cases. Now, by design, Gurucul learns normal within your environment, whether it be a user, asset, or any entity that you define. Based upon that, we look at anomalies and deviations from that norm. Hence our out-of-the-box machine learning models. We have over 3,000, by the way. We start to build up a profile of those entities and start to look at anomalous behavior. Once it reaches a particular risk threshold, which, by the way, is totally configurable, we start to create a case and also bring up alerts within the console here. We also have an alerts widget in this particular dashboard. Gurucul provides its own threat intel by design, but we can also integrate with third-party threat intel subscriptions if we want to. Any detections that define malicious IPs, domain hashes, CISA advisories will be flagged automatically, and you can actually start your investigation from there, wherever you so wish. Scrolling down, some of you may have noticed already, but as we scroll down, we can also define particular watch lists. Perhaps we just want to see in general across my estate and my organization who's risky, what is risky based on asset and user, for example. Maybe we have an interest in vulnerable systems, perhaps in siloed environments. By the way, Gurucul can be deployed both on-premise and in the cloud, allowing you to flexibly bring in log data from those mediums. Based upon that, when we have vulnerability data, we can say, hey, well, I've got a watch list based on those vulnerable devices. These are alerting for me, and this is where I want to start my investigation. Perhaps a geolocation that you're working with or not working with, you want to see the alerts for that. Some of you may even be focused on MITRE. Every detection we have out of the box is aligned against a MITRE TTP. You can prescribe to any of these MITRE TTPs and build models based on those TTPs as you see fit. Perhaps there's some TTPs that allude to ransomware, for example. A model can be configured, and there are some out of the box, by the way, focusing on particular ransomware type activity. But any of these TTPs are clickable, and you can start your investigation there. So as we scroll up, there's a few tabs along the top. Now, traditionally, when I used to work in a SOC, and maybe some of you do today, I looked at the cases that I have in my queue, often overwhelmed with alert fatigue, looking at not only singular alerts, which we can do here within the platform if we so wish. Maybe there's a premise for me to look at only particular types of alerts, certain types of endpoint alerts, or maybe firewall, even web proxy alerts. However, we can also pivot to the cases that Gurucul has created based on the risk that we mentioned and start our investigation there. So the choice is entirely ours based on our workflow. However, I'm going to be really cool about this, Chris. And actually, I'm going to use one of the dashboards to prove how we can use the widgets really effectively through an investigation. So looking at the enterprise alerts I have in my environment, if I hover over the blue one here, we have something that has triggered a Lockbit ransomware alert. So let's take a look further at this. So we can see it's creating an alert here based on a particular machine, SQL Server 9190. It's a severity of high. Let's go a little bit further from there. As soon as we click on the particular ticket there, we are provided with the profile screen as we see here. And this provides us with a lot of information that is useful for an analyst when they're asking key questions around this particular alert or activity. Well, the first and foremost is, well, what is this host name? Where does it come from? What is the server? Where is it located? We can actually grasp context information from any source you like, whether it be Active Directory, a custom CMDB. This can be scheduled, connected to via API, or even statically placed into the platform. As we all know, context is king, and this further enriches the platform and also enriches the profiles we look at here. We can see the behavior of this particular asset. Now, we know some assets are pretty active. There could be some servers that are not doing much activity. Maybe we're just copying and recording who's accessing that machine, maybe some process executions, maybe some web activity. However, when we see a deviation from the norm, we can, at the first instance, just hover along the top and also along the bottom to see what those anomalies may be and understand what it is straight away. So any of these sub-widgets are actually interactive, where it gives you a summary of what that anomaly is. Now, let's go back a little bit because I want to show you the fact that because we're collecting data from any log store, natively we are a SIM, but we can collect from any log store, which allows us to then look historically back and see what else has happened before and after that time. So I can now expand my search over a period of time. As you can see, it immediately expands and start to scroll down. Now, we start to see a summary of some of the anomalies that have been created. And as you can see, where it's appropriate, where we've reached a threshold risk, we've created a ticket and a case ready for you. And as mentioned, this is totally configurable. We can also flip over to the MITRE TTP view and review any MITRE TTPs associated with that day or that time period of activity, just for a summary view. Back to the events. We can also see that each detection is mapped against MITRE TTPs. This becomes important if you're focusing on that type of activity. Let's scroll down to the bottom and look a little bit further as to what happened, where, when, and how, and what this data gives us. When we expand one of these detection events, we also want to ask ourselves, well, okay, how did it happen? Where did it happen? Perhaps who was it? And who else is affected? With those questions in mind, we can see immediately that this is actually impacting the server. That's what we're looking at. By this particular employee ID at this present moment, I don't really know what this is. And it seems to be a file called passwordupdate.zip executing from the downloads folder. We've contextualized the data so you can extract it from the facets on the side here and actually download that for further analysis if you so wish. At any point in time, We can also respond, and we'll do a response together at the end of this investigation, or actually look a little bit further and start our threat hunting. This pivots us into the actual events that occurred for that day. I'll wait for that to occur. Okay, let's try again.
Oh, the joys of live demos, right, Randeep?
Always is. Sometimes I blame my laptop, and it's always the case. Let's go back. Okay, so let's go back here, and we will click back on the Logbit ransomware. Let's go back in, and it's still ready for us to activate. Let's go. So I'll trigger back to the day, because I'm really going to test the platform to go back a few days. Wonderful. As we scroll down, I want you to click on investigate. That's okay. I want to go a little bit further. Let's look at those events. Right. As you can see, we pivot into the threat hunting part of our investigation, which now brings the raw events for that particular time frame. And I can drill down into these raw events at any point in time to see the events that we've passed out that are key to this investigation. Now, going back to how we extract data, we are completely and entirely security focused, which means that we're extracting the values from the raw logs that we need for security-based investigations. This is very powerful, especially for us analysts who are trying to get to root cause very, very quickly. Now, this also populates the query, which can be saved as an alert, aka a correlation rule. This could be a simple save search for my peers to look back on. Perhaps it's an IOC now that is of use to me. But we have the flexibility inbuilt within the platform as an active way of acting upon this particular threat hunt that we're doing. So what do we see here? We see an employee ID, which we noticed before. We saw the path file executing here, and we see the command line here. Really interesting. Now, I want to know two things. Who executed this file? Where did it come from? And that's key. And who else is impacted? And at any point in time, I can go to the profile of that user, and I'll pivot back to a particular time, which is lovely. We can see some red spots here. These red spots and orange spots actually indicate where there was anomalous activity. So I could go back as far as I need. I'll see the bump in the anomalies there and scroll down to the start. And I see an event here from Proofpoint, which is telling me that actually this particular user, who was Calvin, yeah, we've got Calvin here, triggered a particular or download from a malicious doppelganger domain, which looks like our website, but clearly is not. Possibly received through phishing, most likely received through phishing or spear phishing in this particular instant. Now, just before I move on, this is a user-based profile. What's useful about this? Again, in the same way, we can ask the questions, well, hey, who is this user? What are they all about? When did they last log on? Gurucul, by design, has collected that information from all types of contextual sources, including multi-factor authentication elements as well, to tell you, well, hey, this is the types of accounts he uses, only one in this case. This is what vendors he's triggered during his activity, you know, so you could also filter your investigation by vendor, and also his peers, who is in his group, in his country, in his geolocation, and really giving you contextual information about what's going on. So scrolling down, let's act upon this. There's two ways we can do this. So within the response here, I could very simply create a case and then extract that case and send it to my peers, maybe second or third tier support, depending on how I want to do. And by the way, you can automate this capability based on particular parameters, and I'll show you that at the end. I could also click on investigate, going back to the investigate, and say, hey, I've got a playbook for Proofpoint that I've been told to run manually. Again, this can be done automatically, and I'll show you how those triggers work. I can run that playbook right from the investigation and actually instigate that playbook. For example, an email quarantine playbook we can run here to quarantine that particular email from the organization. Now, before I run that, I did ask a question to myself. I said, well, hey, who else has been affected? We've leveraged machine learning so far within the Gurucul platform to give us more enriched risk-based alerting, risk-based detections. How about leveraging AI to now ask AI to do an activity for us? You know, for example, list the employees who else have executed password update.zip. Now, I've to save for time, I've already typed the question in, And this SME AI, the subject matter expert AI that we have within the UI of Gurucul Reveal, gives us a very quick report of other users who've received this file and executed this file. Now, we're not limited by this. We can use the SME AI, as we like to call it in-house here, to generate reports, to ask further questions, and perhaps ask for response tips and hints as well. So I mentioned at the end that we ran a playbook. Now, we also have, as part of the TDIR workflow, a playbook capability or response capability. And just to click on response, just to show you some of those playbooks. So let's have a look. I'll pick on one we can work with. We have a handful out of the box that are totally configurable depending on the vendors that you use, the types of things that you want to do. Perhaps you want to do something as simple as, hey, Randeep, if I see something risky, log a ticket. By the way, we also have the ability to connect to external ticketing systems like VMC Remedy, for example, ServiceNow, et cetera, and we can also use our internal case management. So either or as you see fit, we're completely flexible. But perhaps we have a playbook such as this, where we say, well, hey, if I see a file which has failed or it has not met particular criteria with a virus total lookup because I'm subscribed to virus total or maybe some sort of detonation engine, I want to do certain things. If it fails, update the ticket, maybe put some comments in, send that ticket update to ServiceNow. If it's really, really bad, if it's high critical, if it's in the high risk category, I want to create the ticket, I want to update the feed, and I want to delete the file immediately from the organization. Again, depending on what you invested in or the vendors that you have with environment, we can use the API to connect and send instructions. Some of the playbooks I've seen range from raising tickets, banning hashes, also quarantining users, sending emails to bosses, and obviously changing states of tickets as well. So I'd like to finish my demonstration there. And if there's any further questions, please read them out to Chris and give me a hand. But thank you very much for your time. Ah, lovely. I see a question there, actually. That's a really good question. Maybe I didn't clarify. So someone's asking, well, as an analyst, how do I get notified of an alert? That's really great. So we have complete flexibility on how you want to be alerted. Now we could instigate a simple playbook from which you get alerted. A simple message could be sent to your inbox, a SOC inbox, your specific inbox, because you are the first line of detection and prevention. We can also automatically send a syslog event or even an API connection to any external ticketing system. I know that we have a couple of customers who also sent messages to pages. Do you want to be messaged out of hours? But certainly something we can do.
Yeah, thanks, Rand. Let's see. What is your MITRE attack coverage? So it's like 96.9% of the different attack techniques. And I think, you saw that everybody got to see the widget, and we do map everything. And there's links in the UI where you can go directly to that, technique that we map to if you need to do some additional research there. Are you guys a SIM? That's a pretty easy one. We're a security analytics platform that is modular. If you need SIM, you just license those modules. If you need UEBA or SOAR or NDR or whatever, it's a completely modular platform. You just license what you need. Here's a good question for you, Rand. How do you establish your baselines? Can it be trained on historical data, or does it have a 30, 60, 90 training timeframe?
I believe it can be trained on historical data as well, which is key for organizations who perhaps want to keep their current SIM or their log store, and we are augmenting with them. So we can train on historical data and start to bring up activity or risky activity over a period of time.
Yep, that's great. I like it because you don't have to wait 30, 60, 90 days to start getting alerts or establish your baselines. Let's see. I got one other question. Sorry, I was on mute earlier. Continue to pop in your questions. If I already have all of my workflows and analysts trained on alert flows, can I maintain that workflow, or do I have to use cases? That's a pretty easy one, Rand.
can I maintain that workflow, or do I have to use cases? If I understand this correctly, as I've probably hopefully shown everyone, is that there's flexibility in the workflow you want to choose. So if your way of dealing with security events is via your own ticketing system, via tickets and individual alerts, individual security alerts, you can start your investigation there. That's totally fine. I know when I used to work in a SOC, my responsibility was to just look at firewall alerts and react to those, and that's okay. However, looking with how machine learning is now enabling or augmenting how we work better, you can also use the machine learning models that we have to say, well, hey, I've got my cup of coffee in the morning. Who or what is the most riskiest, and start my day there. So it's entirely up to the organization how they see fit.
Yep. Yeah, we do a lot of SIM migrations, and not all SIMs have that case management function. And the flexibility of our platform is you can continue your alert workflows or whatever, and you can start to adapt to a case management workflow, or both. We've seen it both ways. Mm-hmm. Let's see. That looks like all the questions that have come in so far. So we might wrap this one a little early.
Well, it says this one just come in, actually. I think we've got one in. Can we change something around? Can we change the or modify the machine learning models out of the box? I mean, that's a good one for us, right? I think I might even quickly show. Is that okay? We got a bit of time, Chris? Yeah, I might even show that. I think that's a great question, because throughout my conversation, we've been talking about machine learning models and the fact that we have 3,000 plus 3,500 now. Correct me if I'm wrong. That I'm building up these detections, this risk profile. But the nice thing is, and the most powerful thing here with Gurucul, is the fact that all of these are configurable by anyone throughout the organization who has access to them, certainly in the studio here. So here's a list of some of our machine learning models. You maybe want to focus on ones that are based on MITRE TTPs. Perhaps you're looking at particular threat types based on user and entity behavior type activity. Perhaps your focus is on data loss prevention, data loss detection. That's sort of methodology. You can start to look at the models that we have and support here. And by the way, this content is always updated. This is always moving. So I never really believe these numbers, because our guys and gals are working hard to always keep up to date with this. And our website has all the threat advisories almost every other day, right, Chris? Where we're giving out the new things we're looking at, the type of attacks we're looking at. So an example could be, hey, let's take the top one. We saw this just now, right? So we can actually edit this particular model and see some of the things that this has out of the box. And this is a nice basic one, but it certainly is powerful. We'll pick on two. So the entity is very simple. What are we looking at? What type of entity are we looking at? In this case, we're looking at a user. From that triggers from Zscaler. It's Zscaler here. We have all our vendors here, which we can search for, and the conditions that will trigger this particular model. So this is totally configurable to the conditions that you want. And you can also, by the way, you can chain different models, which is very powerful. So you can say, well, hey, if I see Chris or his department accessing a particular website, and that triggers on the Zscaler proxy, and I see these TTPs, and by the way, CrowdStrike triggers these alerts from this geolocation. Hey, I want to build this risk up very quickly. And this is where model tuning and model transparency is extremely important for the organizations we work with. Chris, anything you wanted to add with that?
Nice. No, that's great. I appreciate you showing that. It is powerful. And, other things you can do is you can clone, I think there's like almost 4,000 now out of the box. We're adding them weekly. We do our daily updates on our website from Gurucul Threat Labs, like you mentioned. So be sure to check that out, where we give you great search options that you can type in and find new stuff. There was one additional question came in that what if I already have a SOAR? Do I have to use your SOAR capabilities? No, that's part of the modular platform. If you've already got a particular component, you just don't license that. We can integrate with all the major SOAR platforms out there?
Good questions.
Yeah, great questions. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. Be sure to check out our future demo casts where we cover different topics. Thanks, Rand.
Thank you very much.